Good morning and good afternoon, and welcome to the Selling from the Heart webinar. This is Daryl Amy here today with my podcast co-host and best-selling author, Larry Levine. How's it going today, Larry?
It's going. I'm excited. They say it never rains in Southern California, but I'm telling you, Daryl, it has just been pouring. So I'm anxious to get this one going. What's that?
And why does it rain cats and dogs? I never have figured that out.
I have no idea.
We're going to have a good time today. I'm glad you're here with us, or if you've requested the recording, welcome. We want to add a lot of value here to you in the next 30, 35 minutes or so. And we're going to be sharing some ideas on how you can create value propositions that resonate with your buyers. And I'm really excited about this. Larry, I know as I get control of my screen here, that as we work with sales reps around the world, and in particular over the last 3 years, as you've helped a lot of organizations with social and social selling strategies, it really it was like a bright spotlight on this area of reps struggling with value propositions, right?
No, I want to bring up a point, and it's not to, diminish the power of social, because I'm a firm believer that, I always say there's certain non-negotiables, right? Prospecting's a non-negotiable, but obviously social's a non-negotiable as well. But what I started to see, especially over the last couple of years, delivering social, whether that be in the US or Canada or Australia for that matter, it wasn't so much as sales reps latching onto social, but the big shiny light, Daryl, was, how do you clearly position yourself so you look credible, but how do you position yourself as that value add? And that's where I started seeing that sales reps all over the place, and I don't care if it's a sales rep who's just started or the most tenured of sales reps, Daryl, is how do you clearly articulate value that resonates with somebody to say, you know what, I want to get to know you. I want to have a conversation with you. I feel that you can lend a helping hand to my company. And in the absence of value, we know what happens.
Yeah, nothing, right? And that's exactly what we want to talk about today. And I'm glad you're here, by the way. If you've joined us, just joined, welcome to the webinar today. We are recording this webinar, so at the end, we'll make sure that you get a copy of it if you'd like to review it or share it with anyone internally. But, as we talk to sales reps really all over the world, and we have been all over the world this year in big companies and small companies, and the issues you see on this screen are we ask at the beginning of sales training, what are the biggest challenges you face? These are the things we hear over and over again, right?
Yeah, and it's, obviously this could be a laundry list, but if we take together, if we start taking a look at this, these are the ones that come up and for lack of a better word, rear its ugly head is, how do I really get that attention with that decision maker? And here's what's critical, because we all know now there's multiple decision makers and there's multiple influencers. So how are you grabbing their attention? And how are you getting, I'll just throw the word out there, how are we getting sticky?
Yep. Yeah, and I would add one thing to this list. Obviously getting attention, conversations, competitive advantage, all of that, but it's just getting down to even closing business. And I think, so many times our biggest competitor is not our biggest competitor. It's actually the status quo. And when reps aren't able to clearly articulate value, we end up losing to the status quo, which is the no decision, right?
Right.
And
one other thing, and sorry to interrupt, Daryl, but I just started thinking about this because I was in a conversation yesterday with somebody about this is, the things that we're talking about, now and on this webinar is the opening act. And I'm a big believer. If you open the act, right? We'll use the theater as an example. If you have that great opening act, people are they're going to be attentive. If you don't open correctly, you'll never close correctly. And what we're going to talk about is how to really provide that value, but open up these conversations in a way that continues them wanting more.
Yeah, and if you look at across, and this is where the light bulbs, it's kind of the light bulb moment for us was, you look at all these challenges we keep hearing over and over again everywhere we go. And we realized, we had that moment where, so what's the common denominator here? We're, different countries, different markets, different size businesses. The common denominator is sales reps struggle to articulate a meaningful value proposition. And, it really doesn't matter which of the great sales models and methodologies that you use. You know, if you're a Challenger fan or Insight fan, or you just go down all of the different sales methodologies, they're all great, but they all make an assumption. And that assumption is that your sales reps know how to articulate the value they bring to the table. And if they can't do that, they're going to continue to struggle. So this is where we started. This is, you know, the light bulbs came on and we said, we've got to really dig in and understand how to articulate a value proposition. But when we first looked at the definition of the word value, this is where some new thinking came about that I think you'll agree by the end of the webinar today has the ability to transform our value that we bring to the marketplace.
So we're all going to go back to school on this one, right, Daryl?
Yeah, there we go. Okay, so everybody open your books.
Right. Open your English dictionary, right? You know, pen out, paper, right?
So let's get out, let's dust off the old Webster's, right? And flip to the letter V. Value, it's a noun. But here's the interesting thing. So the first part of the definition of value is, I think, what we always think of as sales professionals, which is like, what's the business value of this? The worth, the importance, the usefulness. You know, I've always said for years in training, value add equals gross profit. If you want gross profit, you add value, you show an ROI, you deliver outcomes. There's no question about that. But Larry, we started realizing that the second part of value is just as important and maybe more important. And that's the actual values that our buyers and their companies hold dear, right?
Yeah. And this is the critical thing that we want to stress is, and I see it, I see it in my travels all over the place, is we use the word value. Whether you use the word value or you use the word values, I think it's just been thrown around like, hey, how's it going, Daryl, right?
Right.
And, you know, we're a value-added partner. We're a value-added resource.
Right, yes.
Value. But really, what is it? And I really want people to think about what happens in that moment when somebody says, so Daryl, please share with me the value that you can bring to my organization. Then what's going to happen? And that's what I want people to think about as they start listening to the webinar.
Yeah, so we started thinking about this, and this is, you know, if you think about, without getting, now we're in math class, we got a chart going up, so come over to math class. You know, on the, what is that, the x-axis, you know, here we go. We're salespeople, not math geniuses. On the vertical axis, the business value, like that's what creates the urgency. If we can show a strong ROI that's connected to pressing business goals or challenges, we create urgency. Now, the other axis, though, is the other second part of value, which is the values. And when we have values that are lined up with our client or our prospect, we end up creating trust. So here's what we're thinking, Larry. If you've got a great value proposition from a business standpoint, but no trust, what's your chance of closing the business? Not good, right?
Not very high.
And then if you've got a great close relationship with a prospect, but you're not able to connect the dots to a pressing business challenge, you're in what our friend Anthony calls the friend zone, right?
Yeah, and that's where you take, you know, you're broke because you're taking people to lunch and you're buying them donuts, right? And a shout out to our friend Meredith Messenger, who turned us on to the word donut droppers a while back on the podcast.
Yeah, but I mean, I loved Anthony Anarino's blog this week saying, get out of the friend zone. I mean, we can have all the friends in the world, but if we can't connect to a real business goal or challenge, we're in trouble, right? We're going to buy a lot of lunches, but we won't have any money to sustain that for very long. So what we've got to do when it comes to value is we realize that we've got to do both. We've got to be able to generate the urgency by connecting to their top level goals and challenges. That's what we want to talk about first. And then second, we'll talk about how to get out of the friend zone, or that's getting out of the friend zone. Second, we'll talk about actually making some friends, having the trust we need to close the business. So so let's dive in. We call this a value alignment model. And what we're saying here is this, and if you can just think with us for a second about deals that you're struggling to close, how well aligned are you? So On the business side, your buyer is on the top. They've got business goals. They've got challenges. They've got things that are top of mind to them that they went to bed last night thinking about, that they thought about this morning as they were driving to work. And you've got products and services from your company, whatever you sell, it really doesn't matter. You've also got your personal experience that you bring to the table. And when we can get those two aligned, when you can get your products, services, and solutions aligned with what is important to the buyer, we've created business value, and that brings a sense of urgency. And if we're in sales, if you don't have urgency, you're in trouble, right? But you got the other side as well, where the buyer's got their company's values. You know, how many of you know every company has values? Hopefully yours does. Hopefully they're good. But they also have some personal values. And then so do you, and so does your company. Well, when we can get those in line, we create trust. So if we have urgency and trust, we have the two ingredients we need to get a sale moving forward. What do you think, Larry?
No, and I'm in complete agreement on this, and I'll go back to even, my selling days. Is if there's no trust, to me, you're in the water. You could be in the friend zone and they can like you all day long and they think, you got the great product and a great service and everything's right.
Yeah.
In alignment. But I'm telling you, if there's no trust, and I'll give you some examples, real world here in a little bit, but I mean, you're dead in the water without trust, period. End of story.
Yeah, and so both these things have to be in place. And, one of the things that we talk about a lot, and of course, Larry, you wrote the book on authenticity, is when you think about authenticity, usually we think about the right side of the equation, right? This, I'm an authentic, genuine, good person. And so there's authentic relationship that needs to happen on the right hand of the equation here. But there's also authentic value. And as salespeople, we have to, like we like to say, bring the goods. We have to bring value to the table, and we have to be able to understand the buyer's world and align our value with that buyer's world. If we get both of these right, we're going to succeed. If we don't have both of these, we're actually in a lot of trouble. So that's what we want to talk about today. And I want to start by thinking about the business side of the equation, the value side of the equation, and then we'll get to the values. And this is something, Larry, that I learned in the University of Hard Knocks. And along the way, I got very interested in. I'm a bit of a nerd. Larry, you might argue.
No, hey, Daryl, that's for all the listeners out there. We're going to get rid of the word "bit." You're just a nerd.
Okay, so I got fascinated with, in the industry I was in, I got fascinated with document management software. For those of you who don't know what that is, it's basically software that allowed you to scan paper in, search, retrieve, secure it, improve the business in so many different ways. So I could walk into an office, I could look at what was going on, and very quickly I could see problems in the office ranging from rows of filing cabinets to stacks of paper on people's desks to people waiting on hold on the phone while someone was looking something up. And Larry, it wouldn't take me very long as a specialist in that area of software to very quickly come up with some recommendations that would make that office run much better. And so that's exactly what I did. I got in front of decision makers and I said, I have some ideas to make your office run better. And I did my pitch, my presentation, and Larry, over and over and over again, I kept hearing the same things. Man, Daryl, that's a brilliant idea. That would really be helpful to our business, and we plan on getting around to that someday, but we have some other priorities right now. So why don't you call us back in ... right? Yeah. And I don't know how many of you on the phone have reps on your team that have stuff stuck in the pipeline that, you go have that meeting with the rep and you go, okay, this deal's been in your pipeline for 2.5 years. Can we just put a bullet in it? Because the reality is, if I want to get a sale moving forward, I better understand what's important to my prospects. So I always think of the decision maker that's driving to work in the morning. Your sales team is driving to the work in the morning thinking about how am I going to close business? How am I going to hit my quota and all of this? But every decision maker is driving to work in the morning and they're thinking about what's going on in their business. And my contention, Larry, is if I cannot connect my recommendation to a top level business goal or challenge, there is a very little chance that I'm going to get action on my recommendation. And the number one thing that reps need to do when it comes to communicating value is very first, understand what's top of mind to that prospect.
No, and you're spot on with this, because this is, I enjoy doing this exercise with sales teams because quite frankly, and I'm just going to be brutally upfront on this. There's no high level executive that's driving to work in the morning saying, "Hey, I can't wait to talk to a salesperson." And secondly, "Hey, I can't wait to talk to that salesperson about your product."
About something else, right?
But we got to understand that when they're driving into the office, right, or they're drinking that cup of coffee in the morning, what are they thinking about? And if we can get inside their head and we can start thinking about what are the things that concern them.
Yeah.
What are they thinking about? What are their initiatives? What are their goals? What's the things they're working on in the next quarter? And how can we help solve those with what we have to offer? You're golden. So, a good thing that I encourage people on the call to take a look at is look at your 30, 60, 90, right? If you look at it on a quarterly basis, look at the deals that you have right now, wherever they're at, they're on your, they're in your funnel somewhere, and ask yourself, do I know what their top level business goals and challenges are? Can I attach my solution to that? And if not, you might have a little bit of homework to do after this call.
Yeah. And I would say if you can't identify a prospect's top level business goals and challenges, your chance of closing it the deal are slim, because buyers only have a limited amount of resources, time and money. And their time and money should go to their top level priorities. So here's what happens, and I blogged about this morning, how sales reps are really bridges. They bridge between the products and services they offer and the buyer's goals and challenges. The problem is, as sales reps, we usually start with what we're most comfortable with, which is our products and services. And really where we should be starting is with what the buyer is most comfortable and concerned with, which is their business. And I got to tell you, Larry, I was on a call earlier this morning, and it was with a salesperson for a SaaS company that were just taking a look for a solution for a problem. Won't get into the specifics, but this salesperson went on for 15 minutes talking about their products and services. Finally, I wedged my way into the conversation as a buyer, and I was just sitting there. Usually I play the seller role, but I was playing the buyer role in this conversation. And about 15 minutes in, I tried to wedge in why I was interested in talking to this person, because they didn't ask. And I was just sitting there going, holy smoke, this guy, has totally missed the boat, because he's like proverbially trying to throw the spaghetti against my wall and seeing if something would stick. And if he just started by asking what my business goals and challenges were, he could have, instead of the old shotgun, he could have pulled out a rifle and hit me, because, I was talking to him because I was interested in what they were doing. But I had a specific interest, and we miss this so much. I think we, not to throw too many analogies here, but we have trouble as salespeople seeing the forest through the trees. And, every prospect has business goals and challenges. And if I'm not able to align with those, I'm going to be in trouble. If I am able to align with those, I've got a good chance of success. But Larry, a lot of reps that we talk to go, either say it out loud, some have the courage to say out loud, and some just think in their head, why do I really need to understand the overall business? Don't I just need to understand the little part of the business that I touch?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's important, and, we're not going to discredit it. It plays an important role, but I think what's even more important, it goes in, and it's simple stuff, at least in my opinion, is you got to get them talking about themselves. And quite frankly, I mean, there's enough ways to start finding initiatives and top goals and things like that via Google and the internet and
Mhm.
spending some time on the website, that all you have to do is ask a couple sets of those key questions and you get them talking about themselves. And before you know it, I mean, you can see, and I blogged about it a couple weeks ago, right? The sparkle in their eye. You
Yep.
can, I mean, all of a sudden they will start rattling. And then, I mean, you're in heaven when that happens. But quite frankly, we flip it around. Like you said, is, we get so enamored talking about ourselves and our products and our services that we fail to realize that it may be going on deaf ears.
Yeah, it's interesting when we do the value alignment workshops, and we have, one of the exercises we do is we have the sales reps literally just sit down together in groups and think about the top level business challenges the different people they call on are facing. The latest one we did, it was CFOs and IT managers and all of this. And it was really interesting. I mean, the sales reps, that they were really, you could tell it was stretching the team to really think about that, which is good. That's good stretching, right? But we need to get our sales teams thinking about and understanding the business, the high level business goals and challenges. Because here's the deal. If you look at this bridge, for example, and let's consider a specific example, maybe let's just use in our analogy here that this company sells security solutions for network security. Well, I could go in and I could focus on the product and I could do a, data dump on the prospect and scare them to death about all the different security things and everything a security sales rep does. Or I could go ask them about their challenges, and in this particular case, when I went into that business, I learned that they've got an IPO coming up and their biggest concern is making sure the investors become confident. So the outcome they want is to minimize the threat of business disruption. Boom. Okay, I've now connected my highly technical, somewhat boring solution to the biggest goal inside that business. What's the chance of that moving forward? Really good. If I just went in and said, hey, I want to help you with your security, I'm a security expert, and didn't make the bridge, it would probably be like, hey, Daryl, that's a great idea. We've got an IPO. We'll get back to you. We're really focused on that right now. So call us in 6 months. So our ability to go in or the sales rep's ability to go in and understand the buyer's business is really, really critical. And here's the pitfalls. I think there's 3 pitfalls. What do you think, Larry? You want to nail these?
Oh, I mean, these are the common ones, but it's happened to us, right? It's happened to all of us, right? It's happened to me. It's happened to you. But we got to understand that, one pitfall is we start with our business and we don't start with theirs, right? I mean, that's the number one thing. And that's the proverbial data dump. We just don't spend enough time understanding what their business goals and challenges are, because in our opinion, we think it's irrelevant because we're so focused on our product offering, our solution, or telling everyone how great we are. Quite frankly, they don't care at that point.
That's right. Yeah. And we fail to take the time to understand their top level goals. We sell the product, not the outcome. And this is, on the value side of the equation, and we're going to talk about values in a minute, but on the value side, if we're going to create the urgency, we've got to equip our reps with business acumen to uncover and understand their buyer's true business drivers. They need to understand the buyer's business. And man, Larry, I've been on a rant about this over the last week on my blog. If you follow me on LinkedIn, I think I struck a nerve, because the reality is if you go back to the bridge, we've got a lot of reps that understand their product but don't understand business. And so in the B2B space, if you go out there and you understand your product, but you don't understand business, you can't build a bridge.
No, you can.
Bridge to nowhere.
No, and I see it because, one of the things that I see besides the, not being able to clearly articulate value, Daryl, is there's sales reps of all generations that are struggling mightily with just how to drive a simple business conversation. And they lack that business acumen. So nothing worse than trying to have a conversation with an executive with low levels of business acumen.
Oh, It's brutal.
And
Well,
low level of business conversation skills, you're going to get vetted out in 2 seconds. They may look at you, they might be listening to you, but I can guarantee they're not really hearing you.
no, you will get vetted out. It was interesting this past year or so. I got to do a sales training rollout and redesign for a global technology company, and the whole premise of it. And I applaud this company because there was this realization that they had incredible technology, but had need on the business acumen side for the reps to be able to understand business and to ask the right questions, to know enough about business to be able to ask the right questions, and even all the way down to how does the solution impact a scorecard like a P&L or balance sheet, and so these are areas where I think it doesn't really matter what sales model you use, what sales process you're a fan of, if you're Spin or Challenger, or it doesn't matter. The reality is your reps, the more in B2B sales that your reps can understand business, the more successful they're going to be, because they'll be able to build that bridge. So the other part of this is, and I want to keep moving on here, Larry, is on the trust side. If you've got a great bridge in place and you're great at ROI and showing outcomes, but you don't have trust, what's the chance of this of a deal moving forward?
Not very good.
Not very good, right? So we are in a crisis of trust, and this is this is just a little truth serum right now. I think we all know this, but let's just sum it up. Nobody trusts sales reps.
No, and no, they do. It's unfortunate, but
right. Well, we've earned it.
We've earned it. We've
no business acumen, but yeah.
But I think, you know what, and I've spoken about it before, and I call it the silent sales epidemic.
Mm-hmm.
Is they may not be saying it, but I can guarantee this is going on inside of the heads of most people that you're speaking to right now. Is they flat just don't trust salespeople. And I always say, for every great sales professional out there, there's 10 that just give it a horrific name. So we got it. We just have to understand that there's low levels of trust. I think the second one is, and it's, they're like radar antennas, right? Your 2 ears, people's BS meters are at an all-time high right now. So if they don't trust you, right, then all of a sudden they think you're full of BS. So they're really tuned in to saying, okay, I know what's going to come out of that person's mouth. It's just nothing but garbage.
Well, hey, to go back to the Webster Dictionary, the word of the year in 2016 was post-trust era. And this isn't just the fault of sales reps, but I think what we're talking about here is a defining issue that in the sales profession we have to overcome in the coming decade, is that we live in a post-trust era. I mean, fake news, all this stuff that's been going on outside of the sales industry. People, trust is at an all-time low. But what we go, so how do you build trust? And we came across some research recently that really just the lights came on. And this was done, it was published in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. And what these researchers from Kansas University said was, they said that people build trust faster than you think. And the way we build trust is that we find people with common values. So they said selecting similar others as relationship partners is extremely common. So they were talking about like friends and dating and all of that. But hey, what is sales? It's business dating, right, Larry? So, so common and so widespread on so many dimensions, it could be described as a psychological default. What they were saying in this, and I'll send out the blog that dove deeper into this, but basically is we have our antennas up all the time, and we are looking for other people that we can trust. And we're looking for other people that we can trust based on shared mindset and shared values. And in the post-trust era, where people don't trust sales reps, learning how to telegraph our values and align them with our prospects may be the single biggest thing that could increase sales effectiveness.
No, I agree. And this reminds me, hey, you let me share a quick story, Daryl?
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, so I'll keep this one real simple, but I think for our listeners, you're going to understand what we're talking about as far as how aligned values build trust. So outside of what I do with selling from the heart and what and I do with workshops and so forth, I'm heavily involved in giving back to my community. And I'm an active Kiwanis and past president of my Kiwanis group. And this year I'm happen to be in charge of driving membership and growing our club. Well, yesterday, I happened to we got an email inquiry on our website of somebody who's wants to get involved in the community where I live. So I spoke to this person yesterday, and in a 10-minute call, I found out why this person reached out to my Kiwanis group. I found out that this person wanted to get involved in the community, wanted to give back, was a foster parent, used to be involved with big brothers, big sisters. You see where I'm going with this, Daryl? I'm starting to understand what she values.
Yeah.
So, I said, well, it's interesting. Let me share with you a little bit about Kiwanis and what we give back to the community. Bingo, instantaneously, she started going, I like this. When's your meetings? And I said, well, they just happen to be on every Wednesday morning. She goes, can I come? She basically closed herself. She goes, can I come to a breakfast? So I took what I listened, and I took a couple notes. And at my table, so now I'm thinking like a salesperson, even though I'm in my not-for-profit hat. And I'm thinking like a salesperson. So right there I go, at my table at breakfast, and it happened to be this morning, I had the head of our community service committee on one side.
Mm-hmm.
I had on the other side another female, because it happened to be a female potential member. I had on the other side someone who's heavily involved in the community in our Meals on Wheels program, which is something that's near and dear to me. And this person came in, and instantaneously the lights came on and she started to feel comfortable. But magic happened at the end of this when I introduced the two ladies formally, because she came a little bit late to the meeting. And I introduced the lady on my left, who's the head of community services, the lady on the right, who's in charge of Meals on Wheels. And instantaneously she goes, I want to get involved on your committee.
Yeah.
And I want to get involved in delivering Meals on Wheels. But the biggest value alignment is both the ladies were Asian.
Yeah. Cool.
But you see where I'm going is that instantaneously, right, started clicking. I understand her value and her values. I aligned it, and instantaneously we got a new member today.
Yeah, I think that's so strong. And it works on the company level too.
It does. It's magic.
Yeah. And this is how, people have their antennas up and they're looking for, in our post-trust world, somebody that they can trust. So it's very important that we align values. And as we get ready to land the plane on this today, the pitfalls of the value is we lean, especially as B2B sales reps, I think we lean way too heavily on the ROI, the value side of it, and we forget the relationship. And boy, try moving forward without establishing trust and see how that goes, right?
Well, no. And it goes back to our good friend Kevin Davis, who wrote the book, Slow Down, Sell Faster. Yeah. And, I read that book 8 years ago. Mm-hmm. And that book was a cold dose of reality thrown in my face. And I hope, and I encourage the people who are watching the webinar, listening to it, to go check out Kevin Davis's book.
Yeah, for sure.
It's near and dear to us. But here's the thing I want you to think about is if you don't spend the time to build that relationship, and I'm going to throw in the word credible. If you don't spend the time to build a credible relationship with somebody and truly get to know them, what they care about, and have their best interests at heart, and then you attach all these other things to it, you're going to be golden. But if you fail to do that, I just think you're going to get whacked.
I think so. I don't know that you'll get whacked. I think that usually what's going to happen, I think we lose more deals to the status quo than anything else.
Right.
And so, when it comes time to overcome the fear of making a decision, if there's no trust there, it is a big speed bump. And I always quote Stephen M. R. Covey's book, Business at the Speed of Trust. If there's trust, it goes fast. If there's no trust, it slows down, and slowing things down is not good in sales. So, but the beautiful thing that we've realized is when we can understand our clients' values, our buyers' values here on the left side of the graph, and align those with our values and find some some commonality there. And it doesn't have to be a dozen things. It can be one. That's the connection that begins to build trust. And when we get this right, when we get the buyer, the value on the business side and the values on the personal side in alignment, we create urgency and trust. And this is where, the good stuff starts to happen. When we look at the challenges that sales reps face, when I'm able to build trust and create business value, I'm able to drive more conversations. It helps me increase my win rates. I get more gross profit because, quite frankly, if I haven't connected to the buyer's top level goals and challenges, even when I do close business, I'm probably leaving all kinds of profit on the table. And Larry, we get stronger client loyalty, better cross-selling, and more referrals. Yep. I mean, all of the this is like, the golden goose of sales when we get value lined up.
Yeah, and it goes back to it's not complicated stuff. I mean, we're not talking anything at a rocket science level. This is relationship building at its finest. But if you do this, I mean, who doesn't want stronger client loyalty, and who doesn't want more referrals as a salesperson?
Yeah. And so it's so cool watching groups think through this. And as we end today, I just want to let everyone know about the value alignment workshop. Because once again, it doesn't matter what sales methodology you use. If your sales reps can do a better job of articulating value, aligning it with what the client wants from a business standpoint and what their values are on a personal side, it's going to help any business, any sales model out there, because we've got to build trust with our prospects and we've got to maximize our close rates. So if this is something that struck a nerve with you and you've said, wow, yes, please, my sales team really does struggle with articulating value, we'd love to come workshop this out with you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Daryl, right before we leave, and my apologies for interrupting, but I want to give a shout out to somebody who's been on the webinar, who's an avid Selling from the Heart, reader, and that's Keith. And I think if you notice in the comment section, Daryl, and I think my apologies for interrupting you because I know you were trying to land the plane, but I think this is important just to address the question that Keith had asked us, because I think it's a great question.
What is it, Larry? I didn't see it.
Oh, you didn't see it. You must not have the panel open, Daryl. Shame on you, Mr. Webinar.
I'm a nerd. I've got 3 screens going, and yet
come
I can't
on.
see the questions.
I'm so technically savvy. I got the window open, but he asked us. He goes, "Hey, if you can comment on the challenges associated with the matrix organizations with different people with different values, different functions, calling on different decision makers in complex organizations." Now that was a mouthful.
Yes. Well, first of all, Kevin Davis' books, Slow Down, Sell Faster, great place to start. Second of all, I will say that, Larry, you can speak to this as well from some of the stories I know you have. But if you don't have, inside any buying, you've got supporters and cheerleaders, and you've got detractors. The more you can look for signals as to what each person on that buying team values and bring that into the conversations, recommendations, presentations, both from the individuals involved in the buying team, but also from the company, and demonstrate how your company aligns with their company, I think it's going to increase your chances a lot. I mean, complex sales scenarios are a reality. Challenger customer said there's 6.8 people involved in an average B2B transaction. And I think the more you can at least have this on your radar and proactively think about, well, what are the values of each person on the team, both from a value standpoint, but also I'll add from a business standpoint, because, inside a corporate decision, and I'm involved a lot in the technology world, so we'll have the financial decision makers, the technical decision makers, and the end users. They all care about something slightly different. A good ROI means something different to each one of them. So when we're doing the value alignment workshop, we're challenging the reps to think through what's important to each one of the buyers on the team.
Yeah, and I'll just add my 2 cents to this, and then Daryl, you can throw the landing gear on and land this thing. But I look back at the my last little bit in, and I'm fresh out of the sales world, so I've only been out of a sales role a few years now, and I can remember the complex deals I was in. It was common to have multiple decision makers and multiple influencers spread across geographic areas.
Yeah.
So absolutely. This is where I'd encourage, I'll throw it back to you, Keith, and the listeners that are on this call, is start paying attention to social and start connecting to these people. Start learning something about them through the social scene. You'd be amazed what you can find out through somebody's LinkedIn profile, Twitter profile, Instagram, Google their name, what's important to them. Start aligning some of this, start driving conversations with the individual people inside these buying committees as a way to stay top of mind as your deal's progressing through the funnel.
Yeah. And, you can look at the different people on a buying team, and by and large, what a CFO wants, what a IT manager wants, all of those things, at least at a high level. But you can also look on their social profiles, hit Google, and see what signals people are putting out on those buying teams. Yeah. If they're involved in a nonprofit, what is it? Are they involved in the Heart Association? Are they involved in environmental causes? Are they involved in a religious organization? Are they involved in, are they a sports fan? There's so many different ways we can get signals in terms of what they value, and we can bring those into conversation as well. So these are all things that we dive deep into in a value alignment workshop, because I believe that when reps can clearly articulate a value proposition that works well on the business side to develop urgency and works well on the personal side to build trust, we increase our close rate and profitability. So thank you, everybody, for joining us today. We really appreciate it. Thanks for being part of the conversation. And I guess I'll sign off like we always do on the podcast. Larry, keep being genuine, keep being authentic, add value, and most of all, sell from the heart. Have a great day.